How do vaccines work? Slow version. In 1796, the scientist Edward Jenner injected material from cowpox virus into an 8-year-old boy, with a hunch that this would provide the protection needed to save the people from deadly outbreak of the related small viruses. It was a success. The 8-year-old were inoculated against the disease, and this became the first ever vaccine. But why did it work? To understand how vaccines function, we need to know how the immune system defends us against contagious diseases in the first place. When foreign microbes invade us, the immune system triggers a series of responses in an attempt to identify and remove them from our bodies. The signs that this immune response is working are the coughing, sneezing, inflammation, and fever we experience, which work to track, deter, and rid the body of threatening things like bacteria. These immune responses also trigger our second line of defense, called adaptive immunity. Special cells called B cells and T cells are recruited to fight microbes and also record information about them, creating a memory of what the invaders look like and how best to fight them. This know-how becomes handy if the same pathogen invades the body again. But despite this smart response, there are still risks involved. The body takes time to learn how to respond to pathogens and to build up these defenses. And even then, if the body is too weak or young to fight back when it's invaded, it might face very serious risk if the pathogen is particularly severe. But what if we could prepare the body's immune response, readying it before someone even gets ill? This is where vaccines come in. Using the same principles the body uses to defend itself, scientists use vaccines to trigger the body's adaptive immune system without exposing humans to the full-strength disease. This was result in many vaccines, which each work uniquely, separated into many different types. First, we have live attenuated vaccines. These are made of pathogen itself, but a much weaker and thinner version. Next, we have inactive vaccines, in which the pathogens have been killed. The weakening and inactivation in both types of vaccine ensure the pathogen don't develop into the full-blown disease. But just like a disease, they trigger an immune response, teaching the body to recognize an attack by making a profile of a pathogen in preparation. The downside is that live attenuated vaccine can be difficult to make, and because they're live and quite powerful, people with weaker immune systems can't have them, while inactive vaccines don't create long-lasting immunity. Another type, the summit vaccine, is only made from one part of the pathogen called the antigen, the ingredients that actually triggers the immune response. By even further isolating specific components of antigen like protein or polysaccharides, these vaccines can prompt specific responses. Scientists are now building a whole new range of vaccines called DNA vaccines. For this variety, they isolate a very gene that make the specific antigens the body needs to trigger the immune response to specific pathogens. When injected into the human body, Those genes instruct the cell into the body to make the antigen. This causes a strong immune response and prepare the body for any future threats. And because the vaccine only includes specific generic material, it doesn't contain any other ingredients from rest of the pathogen that could develop into the disease and harm the patient. If this vaccine becomes success, we might be able to build more effective treatments for invasive pathogens in years to come. Just like Edward Jenner's amazing discovery sparked on modern medicine all those decades ago, continuing the development of vaccines might even allow to treat diseases like HIV, malaria, or Ebola one day. One more with normal speed. In 1796, the scientist Edward Jenner injected material from a cowpox virus into an 8-year-old boy with a hunch that this provided the protection needed to save people from deadly outbreaks of the relative smallpox virus. It was a success. The 8-year-old would inoculate against the disease, and this became the first ever vaccine. But why did it work? To understand how vaccines function, we need to know how the immune system defends us against contagious disease in the first place. When foreign microbes invade us, the immune system triggers a series of responses in an attempt to identify and remove them from our bodies. The sign that the immune response is working are the coughing, sneezing, inflammation, and the fever we experience, which work to trap, deter, and rid the body of threatening things like bacteria. These immune responses also trigger our second line of defense, called adaptive immunity. Special cells called B cells and T cells are recruited to fight microbes and also record information about them, creating memory of what invaders look like and how best to fight them. This know becomes handy if the same pathogen invades the body again. But despite this smart response, there is still risk involved. The body takes time to learn how to respond to pathogens and to build up these defenses. And even then, if the body is too weak or young to fight back when it's invaded, it might face very serious risk if the pathogen is particularly severe. But what if we could prepare a body immune response, ready to before someone even got ill? This is where vaccines come in. Using the same principle the body used to defend itself, scientists use a vaccine to trigger the body's adaptive immune system without exposing humans to full-strength disease. This is resulted in many vaccines, which each work uniquely, separate into the many different types. First, we have the live attenuated vaccine. These are made of pathogen cells, but much weaker and thinner version. Next, we have the inactive vaccines, in which the pathogen have them killed. The weakening and inactivation in both types of vaccine ensure the pathogen don't develop into a full-blown disease, but just a likely disease that triggers immune response, teaching the body to recognize the attack by making a proper and pathogen in preparation. The downside is that the live attenuated vaccine can be difficult to make, and because their lives are quite powerful, people with a weaker immune system can't have them, while inactive vaccines don't create long-lasting immunity. Another time, the subunit vaccine is only made from one part of the pathogen called antigen, the ingredients that actually trigger the immune response. By even further isolating specific components of antigen like protein or polysaccharides, this vaccine can prompt specific responses. Scientists are now building a whole new range of vaccines called DNA vaccines. For this variety, they isolate the very genes that make the specific antigens the body needs to trigger this immune response to specific pathogens. When injected into the human body, those genes instruct the cell into the body to make the antigen. This causes a strong immune response and prepare the body for any future threats. And because the vaccine only includes the specific genetic material, it doesn't contain any other ingredients for the rest of the pathogen that could develop it into the disease and harm the patient. If this vaccine becomes a success, we might be able to build more effective treatments for invasive pathogens in years come. Just like Edward Jenner's amazing discovery spurred on medical medication all those decades ago, continued development of vaccine might even allow us to treat diseases like HIV, malaria, or Ebola one day. Today's speaker talking about the vaccine and how it's working in our body. Actually, it discovered by some, I forgot the name, but anyway, it discovered by the man, and from now we use the similar principle. When our body is invaded by some pathogen, they try to treat this virus to show coughing, snoring, and fever. So through this process, body know how to treat the virus, and they remember the process. So if they have the same virus, if they have this same virus into our body, they just reminded the process and then treat quickly. So we call this as immunity system. So nowadays people used to make this immunity system by three different types, but I can remember the specific one. But one of them is inactive immune system, and also there are another thing which is similar like inactive vaccines, but it's more weaker than inactive vaccine. And also nowadays scientists to try to develop the DNA vaccine is very quite strong than others because it just focus on the specific illness. So if scientists success to develop the DNA vaccine, maybe we might be treat HIV, Ebola someday. Yeah, that's what I watched today. Thank you.